American farmers understand Putin's war has cut off critical sources of food.
2 weeks after he blamed Vladimir Putin for the troubled U.S. economy, Joe Biden has changed explanations.
When it comes to the gas prices, we're going through an incredible transition that is taking place that, God willing, when it's over, we'll be stronger and the world will be stronger and less reliant on fossil fuels.
Mr. Biden now asserts this is an economy in transition, and I think his argument, previewed by the head of his White House Economic Council the day before, deserves a hearing.
Our economy is in a transition from what has been the strongest recovery in modern American history to what can be a period of more stable and resilient growth that works better for families.
Yes, Messrs. Biden and Deese are getting mocked in some quarters for euphemizing the current mess as a transition. But while the Democratic Party is almost certainly heading toward an election wipeout in November, it seems clear that buying into this economy in transition will be their pitch to voters in the fall elections.
This is going to be a haul. This is going to take some time.
What Americans are going through today is not just another turn in the business cycle. Since 2009, the Federal Reserve has kept interest rates close to zero, an unprecedentedly long era of low-cost debt, which ultimately gave birth to marginal investments like cryptomania.
People are using it more than you or me maybe think.
We'll never know whether an economy could have run on this basis indefinitely because COVID-19 struck. 2 years and trillions in federal stimulus spending later, the U.S. has a rate of inflation not seen since the 1970s. But while some investors remain optimistic,
the 1970s came and went, and this horrible moment, too, will come and go.
Others are more cautious.
When inflation is greater than 4% and unemployment is under 4%, like we have today, recession always follows. So history is not on our side today, but it doesn't feel like we're going there yet.
This isn't 1929. Most people have held on to their jobs, but the intensity of the current economic disruption calls to mind the Great Depression and mounting criticism of then-President Roosevelt's New Deal strategy.
It is true that the toes of some people are being stepped on and are going to be stepped on. But these toes belong to the comparative few.
Before the Depression was the Roaring Twenties, with its surging economy through investment in industries including farming, automobiles, oil, and fashion. What came after, including a world war, was the more sober, nose-to-the-grindstone economic era of the 1950s, with an explosion in the use of cars, suburban expansion, and new homes and shopping centers. When Joe Biden and Brian Deese say they want to transition to an economy with more stable and resilient growth, they're describing their alternative to the pre-pandemic froth. That vision has two goals. The first is to use taxes and guidance on capital investments to compensate for the spreading income disparity between knowledge economy workers and everyone else.
So many of the green products carry a price premium, and the way you get rid of that is you scale up the production. That happened with solar panels, it happened with wind, it happened with lithium ion.
The other goal, of course, is their great white whale, a non-fossil fuel economy.
This is the flagship global public-private partnership initiative at this moment for deep decarbonization.
Growth, Democrats assume, will be slower in their economy, but somehow steadier and more predictable. Substance aside, this progressive economic model, which among other things would have lowered child and family care costs through the tax code, is on its way down the political drain.
I'm having a little trouble getting some of these things passed, but we're not going to give up. We're going to keep pushing.
They can push all they want. They are failing. The Democrats' massive COVID spending produced insurmountable political problems, notably inflation and labor market distortions, while the green energy dream, with its relentlessly ignored cost, will always be in conflict with their transfer states' high costs. Brian Deese is right to say the goal for the future is a stable, resilient economy, but they blew it. Their economy is a historic train wreck.
In your view, is a recession in the United States inevitable?
No.
Republicans should not gloat. It's their job now to help voters understand how to rebuild a new post-pandemic economy.